Coffee is one of the most popular beverages worldwide, and it can have a variety of positive effects on physical and mental health. But what initially caught my attention is recently I was reading an article that showed the type of coffee one drinks can actually play a role in if it's healthy or not. For example, if it's filtered coffee versus espresso drink. And now I'll talk to you a little bit about that later on in the video. But first, what does coffee do that helps it be beneficial to the brain and body? And what does it do to the brain and heart physiologically? So first of all, coffee has antioxidants. The antioxidants help prevent the body's cells from being damaged. And coffee also contains polyphenols, which have antioxidant properties and also are considered anti-inflammatory. And this anti-inflammatory response can also be healthy and thought to help people live longer. So according to the research that I reviewed, coffee can be shown to have some antidepressant effects, can even help protect against suicidal thoughts, protect against fatigue. It can help against neurological conditions like decreased chances of Parkinson's disease and decreased chances of dementia. But there are also some studies that showed that coffee can increase the risk of like colorectal cancer or cardiovascular disease. And too much coffee can lead to depression or anxiety or psychological problems like insomnia. Also, too much caffeine could even lead to high blood pressure. So how does caffeine play its role, or how does caffeine work? So caffeine blocks the adenosine receptors in the brain. And so adenosine is a molecule that sort of naturally will build up over the course of the day. And it's basically, as it builds up, it's telling the body or the brain to like slow down, to shut off. And so that when the end of the day, you feel tired, that's sort of this adenosine that's helping to play a role in that feelings. So basically it can decrease the neural activity, lead to drowsiness, and help one to desire to sleep. So caffeine blocks this adenosine effect on the body's receptors, and so essentially blocks this pathway where one will feel drowsy or want to have to sleep. In turn, caffeine is going to help someone to be more alert. It's like a stimulant where it sort of activates the central nervous system, and it's going to activate a little bit the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which deals with like planning, decision making, organizing, even attention and memory. So similar to other stimulant medications like Adderall or Ritalin, caffeine is going to have this somewhat of a stimulant effect. And this stimulant effect releases other neurotransmitters such as dopamine, norepinephrine, and acetylcholine. Dopamine is the molecule known for like pleasure or reward. Acetylcholine is important for memory and learning. And norepinephrine is like the hormone or the neurotransmitter that deals with the adrenaline response in the body, that fight or flight response. And so that's going to have another important role in alertness and attention. So it's thought that because it increased alertness and decreased fatigue, maybe that is some of the antidepressant properties that caffeine can have. There's a few theories about how it helps protect against dementia. One could be this antioxidant properties and this anti-inflammatory properties. But also coffee is found to play a role into helping clear out some molecules. For example, sometimes proteins can build up in the brain and body that are misfolded and basically become toxic to the cells around them. And so caffeine basically can activate that pathway that helps to remove those substances, because if they're not removed, like over the time, it can build up and damage the cells around it, leading to neurological problems such as Parkinson's or dementia. So some resources suggest you could drink up to 3 to 4 cups of coffee a day or 400 milligrams daily. That will have a beneficial effect. Although people who have mental health problems, they may be more susceptible to psychiatric problems from caffeine, such as anxiety, insomnia, irritability. Even caffeine withdrawal can lead to headaches or irritability, fatigue. So those have to be watched out for as well. So interestingly, a more detailed study was done in Sweden because a lot of people drink coffee in Sweden. So they wanted to test, did the kind of coffee they drink change the health benefits? And so they found that people who basically drank filtered coffee was the most helpful or beneficial because the filtered coffee removes some of the harmful compounds in the caffeine. Harmful in that there's a certain molecule there that will build up the lethal or the bad cholesterol, the LDL cholesterol. If that's built up in the body, that can increase the rate of like blood disease, atherosclerosis, heart disease, things like that. And so they found that the concentration was highest in people that were instant coffee with like boiling water, or they had like an espresso. Those had the highest concentration or would lead to the highest amounts of this LDL cholesterol. Whereas having the filtered coffee would filter out basically those compounds that would form this LDL cholesterol. And so the filtered coffee was typically the healthiest. And I didn't find any studies that directly correlated with the type of coffee drank with mental health benefits, but often there's the same rule of thumb that if it helps with the physical health, it can help with the mental health as well. So if one is more likely to have harmful effects for the physical health, like the LDL cholesterol, it's more likely going to have harmful effects for the mental health. So interestingly, caffeine can have a lot of beneficial effects, although it might be important to pay attention to the type of caffeine one drinks or the type of coffee one drinks, because the type of coffee one drinks can play a role in at least their LDL cholesterol and perhaps their mental health as well.